Hello, podcast listeners. Getter Dunham here.
And don't forget me, Brian DudeMan.
Do you know what Buffalo really needs? More podcasts.
And luckily for you, Heather and I have decided to make a brand new podcast. This one's going to have more of a heavy focus on musicians. We'll still have writers, actors, directors, but this one's going to have more of a focus on musicians. Is there anything else, Heather?
What are you guys doing down there?
Nothing.
You better not be podcasting. No, of course not.
I think she bought it.
Oh, one more thing. Don't tell Mom about this podcast. Hello, podcast listeners. Getter Dunham here.
Woo! Podcast party!
Shh, quiet, dude, man. Mom's asleep.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, folks. Inside voice. I'll try to keep it down.
Anyways, podcast listeners, welcome. You are listening to the Don't Tell Mom About This podcast. I am your co-host, Heather Dunham.
And I am your other co-host, Brian DudeMan.
On today's episode of Don't Tell Mom About This podcast, we have DudeMan's brother.
Hello, podcast listeners. I am Pablo Zabrycki. I'm DudeMan's bro. I'm a bass player and an occasional actor.
That is so cool. Well, let's keep things moving along here. Our first segment of the show.
Is it fan mail time?
Yes, it most certainly is. For the first time listeners, we have a segment on this show called Fan Mail. And the way it works is we'll tell you what guests we have on our show each week, and we'll ask you, the listener, to send us questions, either through Instagram, which is Don't Tell Mom About This, or our Facebook, Don't Tell Mom About This podcast. You'll send in your questions, we'll ask them here on the show, and the guest will answer. So without further ado, here's the first question. Our first question comes from Pete on Instagram. Paul, what was it like growing up with DudeMan?
DudeMan and I were pretty close growing up. We had a ton of things in common. Like, we were playing the same video games for a long time, like Mario and like Metal Gear Solid and some other games. We're into the same movies, the same TV shows, the same books. I mean, I can remember like reading to him like back in the day.
So Paul, who would you say got into the arts first?
I did, but only by process of just being older. I mean, we got into the arts at the same age, like 15, 16. I got my first bass at 15, and I know when like I went to college and Brian was 15, you really started to get into more music, more film, and more things of that nature. So pretty much the same age, just, you know, obviously the years are just a little different.
Your first bass?
Yeah, my first bass. Yeah, I was 15 years old. Our grandma passed away, and she left us with like a little bit of money, and I went out and bought a bass from a friend of mine in high school. I was trying to impress some girl. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, there was this girl that's like,
why we do everything?
there was this girl at this like lunch table, and I was just trying to impress her. Like, oh yeah, I play that. I didn't even know really what it was. It was a bass guitar. So my friend was like, oh yeah, I'll sell it to you. You know what I mean? And like, yeah. So, she ended up like, you know, like not caring at all. But, yeah. So I was 15. I got lessons maybe 6 months or so later, and yeah, that was like 2003, 2004, and you know, now it's like 17, 18 years later, and here I am, you know.
So how old were you when you booked your first gig?
I was 19 years old. I was in basement bands for forever, and like my first few years of playing, I didn't really do a whole lot as far as like live performance goes. And I remember like I was 19 years old, and it was like October 2007, and I booked my friends and I in the band at the time. We booked a show. It was an outdoor show, and like, you know, we went through our set. We actually had a lot of music to play. We did a lot of covers, a lot of jam band stuff like Grateful Dead and stuff like that, and like Neil Young or whatever. And in hindsight, it turned out to be a really cool gig. I mean, there's a lot of friends that were there that I still have to this day, and that was like, you know, 17, 16 years ago. That's a long time ago. So yeah, that was a really cool first one. That was fun.
So, Paul, you've been a bass player for 15 years now. What have you learned in that time?
A lot, and it's very, I would say, it's evolved. Like it started off just being I just want to play and get better, and then it became like my life. And like, you know, music is life, you know what I mean? Life is music. And like those things are intertwined for everybody really, whether they think that way or not. I just kept playing. I mean, I still practice like until 2 a.m. sometimes, you know what I mean? So it's like that's never stopped. But it has evolved though. I mean, you know, financially the money has gotten better, but there's a business side of music as there is to film and arts, the other arts too, and you got to learn that side of it too, because you know at some point it's nice to make some money. So like I've had to learn a ton about that, and when you're dealing with the business thing, you're dealing with like people, management, bookers, and all these sorts of people that accountants. Actually, I've actually had to deal with like accountants and lawyers too. So it's like it's pretty deep, and you just find out that music is in the business side. It's super intense, but you can make a living doing it, and that's pretty much where I'm at. Like my goal is just to play music for a living, and I'm pretty much there, and it's like a super awesome feeling.
So in between like the lawyer stuff, how do you find time to squeeze fun in?
The hard part is like the business side. It's the people side. It's like dealing with people that you might not want to, people that are like mean and like not in it for the love of the music. The thing is though, like when you're on stage, within like 3 minutes, you're like, yeah, okay, that's whatever that, when you're on stage, it's worth it. Within the first 3 minutes, you're just like, you know, obviously, this is why I'm here. And that's so much fun. And it's such a great feeling that, yeah, like just from playing, you know, on stage, that trumps everything else, you know?
Yeah, I get that entirely. Even just the art that I did for Steve here, like sometimes, you know, you're in the process and you're like, man, I didn't mix this color perfect, or like it took a long time to get here. This is frustrating. And then you hand it to someone and they're just in love with it. And I'm like, this is why. Yeah.
So what's your favorite bass line of all time?
Favorite bass line of all time? It's a Motown song. It's called Ain't No Mountain High Enough, but it's Marvin Gaye. And like that bass line, like it blew me away when I first heard it. It's one of those things where I heard it growing up as a kid. Like, you know, like everyone knows, especially in my age group, I'm an older millennial. So it's like I grew up with like grandparents that listened to like, you know, 50s and 60s songs all the time. So I've heard that song a lot. Obviously, it was like, you know, it's a big song. And I went back later in life and I heard it again, and I was like, wow, this bass line is doing everything. That bass line is the song. Like there's very minimal guitar. The drums are like, you know, also they're up front, but also not doing a whole lot. The vocals are huge. Obviously, there's not a whole lot else going on in the song, but that bass line is everything. It carries the melody, the harmony. It's outlining the chords. It's serving the function of the bass, playing the roots and being, you know, that bass area, but it's doing everything in one song. And to me, that's like a perfect bass line. I love that bass line.
It is interesting how you can like take something for granted like that just because it's always around when you're growing up, and then you look back and you're like, oh, that was quality. Because I do the same thing with my parents' music. I'm really into 80s type music, and it was just all I knew. And then that ended up being the music I was really into. And I look back and I'm like, my parents had the best taste. Maybe some of it's, you know, because I grew up on it, I think that, but I don't know.
So I have that, but with film. Like, movies I grew up watching, I take for granted. I watch them now, and I'm like, wow, there's so much here. What made me just like forget that as a kid and just enjoy it and not see like the imperfections? Right. And I try to use those techniques into film and try to make it feel like something that has existed forever. Like that's why I take so many influences and why everything feels like everything else.
So, Paul, tell us what bands you're in right now.
I'll start with this band called Eberwine. It's my friend's band, and it's an original like jam band project, and that's been going really well. It's a lot of fun. I'm also playing with the Applejack Band, my friend AJ, and he's a great friend also, and that's been really fun too. Most people will know me from Dead Alliance Buffalo, or DAB for short, and we've been going at it for about for almost 8 years now, and it's been a fun ride. We've almost played almost 200 shows, which actually is quite a lot. I also play with Savannah Swatland and the Sidetracks, and we have a show on June 25th that we're all excited about, so that should be fun. I also play in the Jimmy D band, and also with the Queen City Jamboree stuff that he does too. So those are also great gigs. I'm always happy when I get a call from my friend Jim Dorsum. And I get calls for various things all the time. Like once every few days, someone calls me, "Hey, I need you for this. I need you for this," and I'm usually not available. But if I am, I will say yes, almost no matter what it is.
Well, that just about does it for fan mail. Guys, if you want your questions asked, or if you just want to know ahead of time which guests we'll have on, please follow our social media. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with more.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Blue Lagoon Studios, for letting us use your room here to do our podcast. Pablo's our guest. Right now, this is the second segment. We are going to do a table read of something that I wrote. We do this with our actors and our friends. Paul's an occasional actor. He works in my films. So this one's called On Enemy Line, Found and Dead, written by Brian DudeMan. The tagline is playing video games at the dawn of annihilation. Fade in, interior, basement, night. Michelle, 30 years, long bleach blonde hair, stained mustard top, unkempt black t-shirt with an iconic slogan like, "The only game I don't play is with boys." Pajamas, sitting at her computer desk with a controller in hand.
Oh, yeah. How does it feel, Matt? Let's get an instant replay of the kill shot. Oh, yeah. Again, let's see it again, boys. But this time, let's see it in slow-mo. Let's get it from another angle.
Michelle, stop it. You win, okay? We don't need to see another replay.
Aw, spoil sport. What's the matter, Matt? Does it hurt? Do you want to talk about it? Oh, where are you going, Matt? You leaving? Are you going to rage?
I'm going to grab a snack. I'll be back in 5, okay? There's a knock at the door.
Oh, sorry, guys. It's my roommate.
Michelle knocks the Cheeto dust off her pants and rolls out of the chair. She sluggishly walks over the door. She opens the door, reveal a pissed off Tracy, 35 years, long curly brown hair, white t-shirt, striped boxers, is behind the door.
Michelle, do you know what time it is?
I have no idea. Is it like 10:30?
No, it's 2:00 in the goddamn morning.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I must have lost track of...
Do you know that I have to work in 3 hours?
I'm sorry. I'll try to keep it down. Sometimes I just get a little excited.
See, that doesn't happen again.
Tracy closes the door behind him.
All right, I'm back, gentlemen. I hope none of you died without me.
So you ready for that classic old ready rematch, Michelle?
I'm always ready to kick some ass, Matt. Are you ready to be spanked and embarrassed here in front of your comrades?
Michelle gets the headshot in Matt's character. All right, it's been fun and it's been real. I can even say it's been really fun, but I think I'm gonna call it a night, guys.
Aw, do you hear that, guys? He's tired. It's past Matthew's bedtime. Do you want me to heat you up some milk? Do you need to be tucked in? You've had a hard day of dying all day. That can really take a toll on you.
There's a knock at the door. Tracy opens the door.
That's it, Michelle. I'm calling your mom. She isn't going to be very happy about this.
No, I swear I'm going to bed right now. Please. Let's keep this between us, okay? She still sees me as her little angel pie. A good little Christian girl. I don't want to break the image she has of me.
Well, then you better hit the hay. Say goodnight to your little boyfriends.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. Just promise this is our little secret? Seriously, don't tell Mom about this.
Fade out the end. Okay, and now we're going to get into a performance from Pablo.
Hello, my name is Pablo, and this is just a fun little improv thing. A man is gonna let loose and just go with it. So, here we go.
And we're back. A huge thanks again to Blue Lagoon Studios for letting us use this place. We'd like to thank our guest tonight for stopping by. And before we close out the show, we'd like to get your final thoughts. And if you wouldn't mind plugging your social media so people know where to find you.
Sure. Anywhere that you see like Pablo Zabrycki, so like Facebook, obviously. Instagram and YouTube are both Legion of Pablo, just because I thought that was cool. And you know, I just want to like take a second to thank some like mentors along the way, like my friends Kevin and Joe from Sonic Garden. Those guys were huge. Everett Lee taught me a lot about the business side of things, and also all the fans that I made, all the friends too. Like so many people. I mean, there's like probably like 1,000 people plus. Just so many people, so many different walks of life. It's been awesome. I've got a great supportive family. My mom has been tremendous. My brother too. I couldn't do it without them. So I just want to say thank you to those people, you know, and yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for tonight's episode. I've been Gitter Dunham.
And I've been Brian DudeMan.
We just have one final thing to say before we go. Shh. Mum's the word. Thank you for listening to the Don't Tell Mom About This podcast. I've been Gitter Dunham.
And I've been Brian DudeMan here live in the Blue Lagoon Studios.
You guys remember we are on iTunes, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please share this with all your friends and family. It would really help this podcast out.
And guys, remember, we release these episodes every week, so please, next week, check back in and we will have a brand spanking new episode for you. Until next time,
Shh, don't tell Mom about this podcast.